Welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. For centuries, we have viewed cities as the exact antithesis of nature, imagining them as concrete wastelands where biology simply goes to die, suffocated by asphalt, smog, and artificial light. But modern evolutionary biology has uncovered a radically different reality. The city is not a biological desert. It is a hyperspeed evolutionary crucible. By completely altering the physical environment, we humans have inadvertently constructed the most intense evolutionary training grounds on Earth. Inside these urban hothouses, species are subjected to extreme selective pressures. We are talking about soaring temperatures, relentless chemical pollution, heavily fragmented habitats, and entirely novel diets. To survive, animals and plants must adapt. But they are not just adapting, they are evolving at a breakneck pace, acquiring biological superpowers in a matter of decades rather than millennia. While this rapid urban evolution is a marvel of biological resilience, it harbors a much darker ecological consequence. When non-native species are introduced to cities, these harsh urban pressures forge them into highly competitive, resilient, and aggressively dispersing organisms. Biologists call this the Urban Bridgehead Hypothesis. Think of cities as evolutionary boot camps. Once an invasive species survives the urban gauntlet, it emerges weaponized. It becomes perfectly adapted to conquer other cities across the globe, and uniquely equipped to outcompete native species when it eventually spills over into natural environments. Let us dive deep into exactly how cityscapes are actively weaponizing invasive species, granting them the evolutionary superpowers needed to dominate the modern world. One of the most defining characteristics of any global metropolis is the urban heat island effect. Asphalt, concrete, and steel absorb massive amounts of solar radiation during the day and radiate it back out at night, making cities significantly hotter than their surrounding rural areas. Add to that our human activities, from running air conditioners to driving cars, which pump localized waste heat directly into the immediate environment. For small, cold-blooded creatures, a temperature shift of even a few degrees can be a matter of life or death. Enter the acorn ant, scientifically known as Temnothorax curvispinosus, a tiny insect that makes its home inside hollowed-out acorns. Unlike many other ants that can burrow deep underground to escape the heat, acorn ants live right on the surface, directly exposed to the baking urban microclimate. When researchers collected acorn ants from the urban center of Cleveland, Ohio, and compared them to colonies in nearby rural forests, they discovered something astonishing. The urban ants had rapidly evolved a significantly higher tolerance to extreme heat. Because ant queens live for only 5 to 15 years, researchers calculated that this genetic adaptation occurred in no more than 20 generations. That is just a blink of an eye in evolutionary time, representing roughly 100 years of urban exposure. Furthermore, the urban ants demonstrated a higher resting metabolic rate and an evolved physiological plasticity, meaning their bodies can adjust to sudden, rapid spikes in temperature much faster than their rural cousins. While the acorn ant is native to North America, this exact mechanism is weaponizing invasive pests globally. When an invasive insect arrives in a warming city, the urban heat island effect forcefully selects for individuals with extreme heat tolerance. As global climate change raises baseline temperatures worldwide, these urbanized invaders are already pre-adapted to the warmer climates of the future. When they eventually migrate out of the city and into natural forests, they possess a massive thermal advantage over native species, which are left biologically lagging, completely unable to cope with the warming world. But extreme temperature is just the beginning. The physical architecture of a city, with its smooth glass windows, sheer concrete walls, and painted metal poles, bears almost no resemblance to the textured bark of forest trees. To navigate this slick, vertical world, urban invaders are physically shape-shifting, actually altering their physical morphology to master the concrete jungle. Take the brown anole, an invasive lizard native to Cuba in the Bahamas, which has aggressively conquered the southern United States and parts of the Caribbean. In its native habitat, it scurries along the ground and low tree trunks. But in cities, it faces smooth, artificial surfaces and wide-open, highly dangerous expanses of pavement. Evolutionary biologists studying brown anoles and their close relatives, the Puerto Rican crested anoles, found that city-dwelling lizards have evolved drastically different bodies from their forest-dwelling counterparts. urban anoles have developed significantly longer limbs. This structural change grants them the explosive speed necessary to sprint across open gaps in fragmented urban spaces before being picked off by predators. Even more remarkably, the city lizards have evolved specialized feet. Over just a few dozen generations, urban anoles developed larger toe pads with an increased number of lamellae, which are the microscopic, sticky scales that allow them to cling to surfaces using intermolecular forces. This morphological superpower allows them to scale smooth concrete, metal, and glass with absolute ease. Genomic sequencing of these city lizards revealed that these are not just temporary phenotypic adjustments based on their upbringing. The changes are permanently hard-coded into 93 specific genes related to skin and limb development. When these genetically upgraded, highly athletic lizards spread, they become an unstoppable ecological force. The native green anole of the American South has been utterly outcompeted by the invasive brown anole. Forced out of their natural lower trunk habitats, native green anoles have had to retreat high into the tree canopies just to survive the invasion. The urban environment crafted a physically superior invader, and the native species paid the ultimate price. This brings us to another massive urban challenge, which is spatial fragmentation. Cities are essentially archipelagos of habitat. You have a park here, a small garden there, all separated by vast oceans of lethal roads, parking lots, and buildings. If an organism wants to find food or a mate, it absolutely must cross these perilous voids. This spatial fragmentation heavily selects for species with enhanced dispersal capabilities, essentially granting them the ability to travel much farther and much faster. Look at the cabbage white butterfly, a notoriously invasive agricultural pest originally from Europe that has successfully colonized cities worldwide. When researchers examined urban populations of the cabbage white, they found that the city butterflies had evolved significantly larger wingspans and stronger flight muscles compared to those living in continuous rural landscapes. In the city, a butterfly with weak wings simply cannot make the long, exhausting flight from one isolated flower bed to the next. It dies without passing on its genes. Only the strongest, most enduring flyers survive to reproduce. This urban adaptation has devastating consequences for global agriculture. By forcing the cabbage white butterfly to become a specialized long-distance flyer, cities have inadvertently created a super-disperser. When these large-winged urban butterflies make their way out to agricultural lands, their enhanced flight capabilities allow them to spread rapidly across vast farming fields, infesting crops at a rate much faster than their rural ancestors ever could. The city acted as a giant evolutionary slingshot, pulling the species back under immense pressure and launching it much further into the wild. And it is not just animals that are being weaponized by urban landscapes. Invasive and opportunistic plants are also actively rewriting their genetic code to conquer the concrete. Consider the reproductive dilemma of a weed growing in a small patch of soil around a sidewalk tree. In a natural meadow, a plant benefits greatly from casting its seeds to the wind, allowing its offspring to colonize distant lands. But on a city street, wind dispersal is a guaranteed death sentence. A seed carried away by a gust of wind is statistically guaranteed to land on suffocating concrete or asphalt, where it will completely fail to germinate. The hawksbeard, a small yellow flower in the dandelion family, found itself facing this exact urban dilemma in Montpellier, France. The plant naturally produces two distinct types of seeds. It makes light, fluffy seeds designed to ride the wind, and heavier, untufted seeds designed to drop straight down next to the mother plant. Researchers discovered that within just 12 years, which is roughly 5 to 12 generations for this specific plant, the urban hawksbeard populations underwent rapid genetic evolution. The city plants drastically altered their biological seed ratio, producing significantly more of the heavy, dropping seeds and far fewer of the wind-riding seeds compared to their rural counterparts. By evolving to drop their seeds straight down into the single patch of viable soil at the base of the tree, the urban hawksbeard guaranteed its local survival. This rapid evolution of reproductive strategy shows exactly how quickly an invasive weed can lock down a newly conquered territory. Once a plant evolves to manipulate its own dispersal mechanics to suit human infrastructure, it becomes nearly impossible to eradicate, dominating urban green spaces and choking out native flora. On top of physical and reproductive challenges, cities are chemically saturated environments. Pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, road salt, and industrial runoff seep deeply into the soil and water. For native species, accustomed to pristine environments, this chemical cocktail is incredibly toxic. But for invasive species, it is just another evolutionary hurdle to clear. Pests like rats, bedbugs, and cockroaches have famously developed near-total genetic immunity to the chemical poisons we use to control them. But the phenomenon extends deeply into wildlife as well. Invasive fish in polluted urban waterways have rapidly evolved resistance to industrial toxins like polychlorinated biphenyls, commonly known as PCBs. They achieve this biological miracle by mutating the genetic receptors that normally bind to the toxins, effectively rendering the deadly chemicals entirely harmless to their biology. Furthermore, the urban diet is a radical departure from the natural food web. Cities are overflowing with human refuse, which is highly processed, calorie-dense, and extremely rich in sugars and fats. Invasive species that can rapidly alter their metabolic pathways to digest human garbage gain a massive caloric advantage over their strictly wild competitors. Birds like pigeons, starlings, and house sparrows have actively adapted their digestive microbiomes to process complex human starches. When an invasive species is perfectly happy to eat discarded French fries, it no longer relies on the seasonal availability of wild seeds or insects. This complete decoupling from the natural food web allows their populations to explode to completely unnatural densities. All of these incredible, rapid adaptations bring us to the ultimate danger of urban evolution, which is the homogenization of the global environment. A city in North America shares more ecological similarities with a city in Europe or Asia than it does with the natural forest lying just 5 miles outside its own city limits. Cities around the world feature the exact same concrete buildings, the exact same asphalt roads, the same heat island effects, the same intense light pollution, and the same chemical runoff. This creates the ultimate weaponization of the invasive species, known as the Urban Bridgehead effect. Historically, if an invasive species was transported from a jungle in Asia to a temperate forest in North America, it would almost certainly die. The environmental shock would act as a massive natural filter, preventing the invasion from taking hold. But modern globalization has completely changed the rules of the biological game. Today, an insect from Tokyo is accidentally loaded onto a cargo ship and unloaded in New York City. Because both locations are highly developed urban centers, the traditional environmental filter is completely bypassed. If that insect has already adapted to the intense heat, pollution, and fragmentation of Tokyo, it arrives in New York completely pre-adapted to its new home. The first city served as the evolutionary training ground, and the second city serves as the bridgehead. From this urban bridgehead, the invasive population establishes a massive, unassailable stronghold. As their numbers rapidly swell, the invaders inevitably spill out into the surrounding natural landscapes. And when they finally do, they are vastly superior to the native species they encounter. They already have the thermal tolerance to survive climate change. They have the enhanced limbs and wings to disperse rapidly. They have the metabolic flexibility to eat absolutely anything, and the genetic resistance to survive our chemical attacks. For decades, conservation biology has operated on the assumption that nature is static, and that preserving species simply means shielding them from human influence. But the harsh reality of the Anthropocene is that human engineering is actively driving biological engineering. The cityscapes we build are not separate from nature. They are the most intense evolutionary engines on the entire planet. By creating extreme, fragmented, and polluted environments, we are inadvertently running a global selective breeding program, constantly favoring the boldest, fastest, most heat-tolerant, and most chemically resistant organisms. If we are going to successfully protect global biodiversity in the future, we absolutely must stop viewing cities merely as the staging grounds for ecological destruction, and start studying them as the epicenters of rapid weaponized evolution. Understanding exactly how urban environments warp the DNA of invasive species is the very first critical step toward mitigating their global spread. Until we fully recognize the incredible evolutionary superpowers we are handing to these urbanized invaders, we will continue to lose the battle against them, one concrete sidewalk at a time. Thank you for listening to Fun Facts Online. Keep questioning, keep observing, and never stop exploring the incredible science of our changing world.